From our broadcasting house here on Wesley Street in Sierra Leone's capital, Freetown, this is Primetime News on AYV TV and radio. You're watching us on Channel 33 and listening to us on frequency modulation 101.7. I am Zulaiha Hamid. Let's start with tonight's headlines. In Abuja, President Bio joins other heads of states to inaugurate the new headquarters of the ECOWAS Commission. Republic of Sierra Leone Armed Forces deploys 45 military instructors to Ghana for advanced professional training.
You train hard during peacetime and you sweat less at war. A military could only serve its purpose if we are properly trained.
And a Sierra Leonean musician appeals before High Court. Appellant Council presents 19 grounds of appeal before Honorable Justice Magegba of High Court Number 8. Welcome from wherever you're joining me tonight. I am Zulaiha Hamid. Now, first in the news. Today in Abuja, Nigeria, President Julius Maada Bio, chairman of the Authority of Heads of State and Government of ECOWAS, officially inaugurated the brand new headquarters of the Economic Community of West African States Commission. This milestone marks a significant leap forward for our community, showcasing remarkable progress in economic integration and good governance. This new chapter ignites a renewed passion to bolster economic and regional unity, drive economic prosperity, and strengthen our commitment to good governance. And now, the world cities are on the front line of the climate crisis. According to the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, by 2050, more than 1.6 billion people living in urban areas could be exposed to the risk of river and coastal flooding if adaptation measures fail to keep pace and climate change. Now in Freetown, the challenge is compounded by rapid urban growth, poor waste management, and aging drainage infrastructure. A recent World Bank flood risk assessment mapped around more than 153,000 buildings across the capital, underscoring the scale of the city's exposure to flood hazards, while new research published in the Journal of Hydrology found that around 60% of Freetown falls within medium to high flood vulnerability zones. Determined to reduce that risk before the rains intensify further, the Freetown City Council, with funding support from the Road Maintenance Fund, has launched an ambitious flood mitigation project targeting 75% flash flood hotspots and critical catchment areas across the city. One of those interventions has taken official and community volunteers to Brookfields, where a major drainage channel log clogged with plastic waste, sleet and debris is being cleared to restore the free flow of storm water. A reporter, Issa Bangura, tells us more.
Water has an extraordinary memory. It always seeks the path that nature first intended. When that path is blocked by plastic, silt and human neglect, it carves out another, often through homes, markets, and communities least able to withstand its force. Brookfields knows that reality all too well. One of the community's principal drainage channels had become heavily obstructed after years of accumulated refuse and sediment. Responding to those risks, the Freetown City Council has expanded its flood mitigation project with financial support from Road Maintenance Fund. The program targets 75 flash flood hotspots and key catchment areas across the capital. In Brookfields, council engineers, youth groups, and community volunteers worked side by side to remove tons of plastic waste, debris, and silt, restoring the channel's capacity to carry storm water safely away from surrounding neighborhoods.
This is very important for Freetonians because we know our drainages are very shallow to some extent. People are dumping in these drainages. What I mean by dumping, they are dumping waste in these drainages. So during the rains, we find out these drainages the water don't have access to pass through those drainages. So that's why we are using this flood mitigation exercise. One, to all the garbage that is in these drainages, and also to make sure we have a free flow of water in these particular drainages within the municipality.
Every year we give allocations to the 22 local councils. Then these councils come up with proposals for us to fund. We review these proposals, approve them and fund them. And for Freetown City Council, this was part of their proposal. Flood mitigation measures and construction of a footbridge. This one is part of the proposal submitted to us by the Freetown City Council, which we funded. The entire package for the annual package, the entire was slightly above 1 million euros. Yeah.
Meanwhile, a newly updated World Bank flood risk assessment has mapped more than 153,000 buildings across the capital to better understand the city's growing exposure to flood hazards. Underscoring the scale of the challenge facing urban planners, experts caution that infrastructure alone cannot outspace human behavior. The International Institute for Environment and Development notes that Freetown's rapid expansion into environmentally sensitive areas has intensified flood risks, making community participation as important as engineering solutions. Residents are therefore being urged to dispose of waste responsibly, protect waterways, and take ownership of neighborhood cleanup efforts long after official exercises have ended.
It affects my business because I'm not able to sell, and the food that they sell, you know, say where they got they can, the other way they come, people in the able can't map here for buy. So they are like with the big we community people, they're more especially in Bufis area. So man we get in the for clean salon, you go give them go throw away all the motor they pass. He pay them go throw away. And boy if they throw away and go outside they cause damage.
Boy see they can't do it they can do now. I see do it small in camera. Can't do it you put the left for they can do. Yeah all the block. People no pass. Bike no pass motor can be where do I start on flop. You know pass now. Pass you go around. Fit assembly.
The challenge confronting Freetown is neither isolated nor unique. The Global Facility for Disaster Reduction and Recovery, managed by the World Bank, identifies Freetown among the world's most climate-vulnerable coastal cities, warning that floods and landslides continue to disrupt transport, commerce, and access to essential services. Flood resilience is built one drain, one neighborhood, and one responsible decision at a time. For Brookfields, today's cleanup is not simply about removing rubbish. It's about reclaiming a measure of safety before the skies open once again. Issa Bangura, AYV News, Freetown.
Away from that, in a press release, the Ministry of Basic and Senior Secondary Education wishes to inform the public that the 2026 Basic Education Certificate Examination conducted by the West African Examinations Council, WAEC, will officially commence on Monday, the 20th July 2026 and conclude on Tuesday, the 28th July 2026 in accordance with the approved examination timetable issued by WAEC. Now, the ministry sincerely apologizes for this inconvenience caused by an earlier communication that indicated that 6 July 2026 as the examination start date. Now, MBSSC acknowledged the discomfort and anxiety this may have caused. Attached to the press release is the final and confirmed timetable issued by WAEC in consultation with the ministry. Now, similarly, school heads and education officials are urged to ensure that all examination agreements and arrangements are completed on time and that candidates receive the necessary guidance and support before and throughout the examination period. The ministry further appeals to all education stakeholders to work together to ensure the peaceful, secure and fair and successful conduct of the 2026 Beke nationwide. Now, in relation to the press release, the Chief Education Officer at the Ministry, Edward Mustafa Parker, has apologized for the change of the Beke date highlighting challenges the ministry faced as reasons leading to the new date. Let's have the highlights.
Let me start by saying we're sorry. I'll put forward an apology for the change in dates. In the current climate that we find ourselves, especially when you're dealing with shipping, you'll be expecting something later than the stipulated date. We were given a projected date for the 21st of June, right, for it to dock in our port. Unfortunately, that was again tracked, and we're given another date for the 24th, which did not happen. We finally got a date for the 29th. But we looked at the 29th to the 6th, we realized that that's just a week. If you think of what it takes to disembark or offload those items and then distribute them or package them and distribute them to the various centers, over 300 centers, it's an enormous task. It will not happen in a week. So we looked at the feasibility of delaying and the benefits of doing that and preventing a situation where we'll face the challenges that we faced in the last exam. For example, there was challenges around those exams where papers got in a little late and something of the sort. So in this one, we wanted to ensure that we don't go back to the experiences that we had in the last exam. To be precise, we have 131,961 candidates for Becker this year across the country. But I want to assure the teachers, the parents, the pupils, and the communities at large that it is very important that we stick to this date, and this date will be the final date. Okay. You know, when we talk about exam malpractice, this is a problem that even the president has highlighted. What I always say to people, it takes all of us. It takes the teachers, it takes the parents, it takes the community, it takes the school authorities, even the pupils. As a nation, we have to take this as a collective responsibility. We have to ensure together, in as much as we as a ministry and WAEC are working very hard to put measures in place to avoid or to minimize. We may not be able to eradicate it entirely, but to minimize this exam malpractice.
The International Institute for Strategic Studies argues that professional military education has become one of the defining pillars of operational effectiveness, particularly as security threats grow more complex and technology-driven. Now, across West Africa, where armed forces increasingly cooperate to combat terrorism, organized crime, and maritime insecurity, investment in human capital has become as critical as investment in hardware. It is against that backdrop that the Republic of the Sierra Leone Armed Forces has deployed 45 military instructors to Ghana for advanced professional training. Now, the 6-week program, delivered in partnership with the Ghana Armed Forces, is expected to strengthen institutional capacity and reinforce military professionalism. Our defense reporter, Edima Conte, tells us more.
Behind every disciplined platoon stands an instructor whose lessons may one day determine the difference between success and failure, or even life and death. It is this philosophy that now underpins the latest investment in the Republic of Sierra Leone Armed Forces. 45 military instructors gathered to begin a journey that extends beyond personal achievement. Over the next 6 weeks, they will undergo advanced instructional training in Ghana, learning contemporary teaching methods, leadership techniques, and operational best practices. The program reflects a growing commitment by both countries to strengthen defense cooperation through knowledge exchange rather than military hardware alone.
There is this common saying that you train hard during peacetime and you sweat less at war. A military could only serve its purpose if we are properly trained, because it is only through training that we become more professional and more capable to accomplish our tasks and missions. So they are going overseas to acquire better training will definitely make a huge change. What has happened over the period is most of the instructor cadre within the ASLAF is aged. So we realized that they are phasing out. So with the younger ones now that you see, they are going to form the bedrock and the new foundation, to discharge the responsibilities of training.
Among those departing is an officer who views the opportunity as both an honor and a responsibility. She says the knowledge gained in Ghana will not remain with the participant alone, but will be transferred to colleagues across the ASLAF through structured training programs upon their return.
As a female, this training is very important for me generally, because since our CDS take over the office, one of his main purpose was to inspire the female soldier, especially in terms of gender. Everything he do, he will make sure female to be part of them. So I feel great and I feel blessed. As an instructor, my intent when I come back is to impact the knowledge that I have learned to other soldiers or my trainees.
Addressing the contingent, the Chief of Defense Staff reminded instructors that they will serve as ambassadors of Sierra Leone throughout the course. He urged them to embrace discipline, professionalism, and excellence, returning home with practical skills capable of strengthening military instruction and enhancing operational readiness across the armed forces.
Consciously, we put money into it. Eventually, we can all go train. Which way of start someone will go out. When I say for go, I have fun. The government has said no select now. Don't go Ghana for 7 weeks. 7 weeks. Yes. 7 weeks. I train and train all 2 weeks or train for private soldier for or civilian for to private soldier. Teach you everything. You get for constant throughout the goal account, all government training instructor. Then by the time now I add on a little bit. You make you choose a private soldier scope more. You see no level waiting for them. Supervise you. Please, I'll let you down, yeah? Sir! Make good use of the resources going on. Where they are so that they listen. While by the lock, they focus. They got paid. So they use the opportunity. I go train. When I can, the future is yours.
Military capability is measured not only by the number of soldiers a nation commands, but by the quality of those who prepare them. For these 45 instructors, the journey to Ghana represents more than overseas training. It is an investment in knowledge, leadership, and long-term evolution of a force preparing for the security challenges of a changing world. Edima Conte, AYV News, Freetown.
And now, Educationist Hope Academy recently held a graduation ceremony in Wokassa, Potloko District, celebrating 22 years of expanding access to education in Sierra Leone. With 15 schools operating in 6 villages across 5 districts, the organization reaffirmed its commitment to a simple mandate that no child should be denied education due to poverty or where they live. Augusta Ethel Ture reports.
The graduation ceremony was held recently in Wokassa, Potloko District, marking another milestone for the organization, which has served the people of Sierra Leone for 22 years. According to the organization, the founder's vision is to give back to the very communities that adopted the children and supported their growth. The event brought together key dignitaries including Dr. Jeff Gingrich, Board Chairman and President for EduNations.
It's such an honor to be here again with you this year. Many of the things that I would like to say have already been said, and I would like to add my congratulations to the class of 2026. You would not be here without your parents, without the teachers, and without the admin staff of EduNations, as well as, obviously, the donors that have provided the resources that are necessary.
Osman Chayi Conte, Deputy Development Secretary, Ministry of Planning and Economic Development, was keynote speaker.
Today is your celebration, but it is also your personal responsibility. Graduation is not the finish line, but the starting point of a new chapter. The certificates you receive today are symbols of achievement, of course, but their true value lies in how you use the knowledge, the skills, and character you have gained over a couple of years. As you move forward, remember that success is not defined only by securing employment.
In his address, Reverend Kande Koroma, Country Director, EduNations, admonished and congratulated the graduates, urging them to maintain excellence and continue to do well in their university education.
Work hard, stay humble, make us proud, and one day sit where our donors, the ministers of this nation, the DVCs, and other dignitaries sit today, and pull the next generation forward. Class of 2026, congratulations to you. We are cheering you. Congregation, I want us to cheer our graduates. Hip, hip, hip.
Speaking on behalf of the graduating class, Samuel Soyikagbo expressed excitement and encouraged other children to take advantage of opportunities at EduNations, noting that the institution changes lives.
Some of us are graduating today as pupils, and it will be good for us because EduNations has taught us how to do some things like that. And also, EduNations is a very educative environment, very conducive for learning.
The celebrations began the night before with a graduation party. The ceremony was climaxed with the presentation of awards to deserving students for outstanding performance. With 22 years of service, EduNations Hope Academy continues to advance its mission of ensuring that no child is left behind due to poverty or location. Augusta Ethel Touye, AYV Primetime News, Makeni.
Now in court, in the matter between Zainab Sharif and the state, the Appellant's Counsel for Zainab Sharif, Roland Wright, has presented 19 grounds of appeal before Honorable Justice Magegba of High Court Number 8. Now, in their appeal, the appellants adduced to the court that the magistrate failed to take into consideration the defective indictment which is provided for in Section 139 of the Criminal Procedure Act of 2024, and while counsel relied on the majority dissenting judgment instead of the majority judgment. A reporter, Sheikh Mohammed Silla, has more.
Appeal is of rights for anyone who feels aggrieved over a court decision as it enshrined in the 1991 Constitution of Sierra Leone, and it is procedural for one to appeal to the court above. Roland Wright, who is the lead counsel for Zainab Sharif as appellant, appeal on 19 grounds before the court with key prayers which were presented before the court. On ground one, he adduced that the trial magistrate failed in law to try the accused summarily as provided for in Section 6 of the Courts Act of 1965 as amended. He said that there is no statutory provision provided for as prescribed penalty for incitement. He said that at the beginning of the trial, they ought to have been obtaining the express consent of the defendant to try summarily before the proceeding, but no such consent was obtained. Counsel cited the case of Mohammed Bashtaki, criminal case of 1961, which he believes that the magistrate is under the obligation by law to first seek the consent from the defendant to try the accused Zainab Sharif summarily, and failed to do such makes the entire trial a nullity. The magistrate gave a custodian sentence of 4 years on count 1 and 3 months on count 2 to run consecutively. He stated to the court on the background at which the convicted appellant was arrested, which was based on an interview which she did with one blogger on the 31st of January 2026, somewhere at a rally at Atuga Mini Stadium, which was later published by the blogger. In his submission to the court, he said that no complainant came forward to complain that they were the potential victims of the incitement, except for 2 police officers working in the cyber unit who came across this interview published by the blogger while browsing, and they acted suo motu. They claimed the words in the interview accounted for an incitement, and when I asked them in court if they felt incited, they said that they did not feel incited. On ground 2, the appellant relied on the case of the state versus Soluku Bokari, which is based on defective indictment. The Honorable Justice Nicholas Barmak said one cannot be convicted on a defective charge, as seen in the case of RV Lansana. Wright stated that the magistrate stated in the court that even though the charge is defective, he can still convict the accused. He presented that counsel relied on the minority and dissenting judgment and not the majority judgment, which is binding by law. While no attempt was made to cure the defective indictment in the count until the judgment was delivered, he believed that it should be considered nullity. The magistrate convicted on a dissenting opinion and on defective indictment, for which they had the opportunity to cure but failed. He said the charges should have been incitement to felony. An example, incitement to commit murder or to clap, and so on count 1 was flawed and defective, and so he prayed for his appeal to be upheld and the conviction must be nullified. On count 3, he said that no complainant appeared at the magistrate court, and when that was brought to the attention of the court, the magistrate said it was the IG of police. He noted that every prosecution case in the magistrate court is at the suit of the IG, and that does not make the IG the complainant, but both count required complainant, but none was brought. And by definition of the offense, it requires a complainant to testify. And by definition of the offense, it requires a complainant to testify that he or she was a victim of the threatening remarks. However, Honorable Justice McGigba adjourned the matter to the 16th of July to continue the appeal case. Sheikh Mohammed Sida, AYV News, Freetown.
Well, still on court updates, the states versus Sayo Mara, Lansana Kura, Saliu Kamara and Abubakar Kamara came up for another appearance before Justice Mageba at High Court number 8. Now, the child marriage case involving the 4 accused persons continued in Freetown, where issues of guilty pleas, changes of plea and sentencing arguments dominated today's proceedings. Let's have the reports from Ibrahim Ramadan Jallo.
It's exactly 2 years today since the president of Sierra Leone signed the Prohibition of Child Marriage Act. Here at High Court, the first person has been convicted for committing such crime. Sayomara, Lantana Kova, Sali Kamara, and Abubakar Kamara make another appearance before Justice Mageba here at High Court number 8.
All accused persons were represented in court. However, the 4th accused person, Abubakar Kamara, told the court he had initially pleaded guilty out of fear and has now changed his plea to not guilty. The defense counsel for the 3rd accused also argued that his client did not fully understand his earlier guilty plea. The prosecution strongly objected to the withdrawal of the guilty pleas and urged the court to impose strict penalties, stating that the case involves a 17-year-old victim who was preparing for the basic education certificate examination but was denied her education due to the alleged act. The defense, however, argued that the age assessment is difficult based on the appearance alone and pleaded for leniency, requesting a fine instead of imprisonment. The court sentenced Lansana Kura, the 2nd accused, to a fine of 50,000 new leones or in default of 15 years imprisonment. Justice Mageba overruled the defense application and ordered that the remaining accused persons be remanded. The case has been adjourned to the 16th of July 2026 for another hearing. The case continues.
This is Primetime News on AYV TV and radio. Stay tuned for more stories after the break.
Do you know you can transfer money, buy airtime, and pay all your utility bills in just a minute? You can have access to your account anytime, anywhere. Welcome to the world of fast and easy. GT Wall. With the GT Wall, you can transfer money from one GT Co account to another, pay utility bills, get account statements, get airtime, and check your balance. With GT Wall, you can buy extra anytime, anywhere. You can go to App Store or Play Store on your iPhone and Android devices, download the app, and enjoy. GT Code. Wouldn't you rather bank with us?
Mutik. This is for the winners. The people who shaped their world and the winners who still put in the work. Cheers to those who start great things. When you start, you're hard to stop. You raise your game and never back down because you're bold enough to make it. To you I say, never stop. Mutik, never stop starting.
Welcome back. I am Zulayatu Hamid and this is AYV's Primetime News. Thank you for joining us tonight. Let's take more stories. Now, the Deputy Director of the Public Education and Outreach at the Sierra Leone's Anti-Corruption Commission, Sylvanus Blake, has appeared on today's edition of AYV's Wake Up Saloon program to discuss the Commission's ongoing assets declaration exercise. He explained that assets declaration is a key requirement under the Anti-Corruption Act's provision on integrity in public life. The exercise is designed to enable the Commission to maintain an up-to-date record of the income, assets, and liabilities of designated public officers when they assume office every 2 years during their tenure and upon leaving public service. Blake was speaking with AYV's Victor Jones and Fabian Swill earlier on today. Let's have the highlights.
It's up to speed with the status quo of the highlighted category of public officers. When they enter public office, every 2 years, and when they exit public office. So you tell us your income, assets, and liability when you enter public office. Either you won an election, or you are appointed, or you are selected. Whatever brings you into public office, it behoves you to tell the ACC in full and frank details how you were when you entered public office. And then every 2 years, because that's the regime now, and then when you exit. So you realize that this gives the ACC an opportunity to have a dossier on all public officers in the highlighted category and to do real-time lifestyle audit, lifestyle check, and when the need arises, to visit this archive and then be able to do the permutations as to what has been happening to public officers who are manned with the affairs of managing us and the meager state resources. That's the duty. That's why we call all of us public servants. So when it works, when an asset disclosure regime works properly, it provides a further layer of security and a further layer of confidence in institutions like us and all who are interested in the fight against corruption to be able to check. Because the human being is so fluid. There is no machine in the world that tells you what Blake intends to do or what Blake is doing alone when he's left alone. And the decisions public officers take, most times they are alone. When they sign these approvals, they are alone. So you can't have an ACC officer standing on top of the Minister of Finance, for example, when he's approving every payment. It's impossible. Let's even say we want to do that. It's impossible. You may need almost one ACC officer attached to every public officer to man-mark, and it doesn't pay. It's not possible. So this is a safeguard, and it can work, and when it works, it helps. So you are not attaching any extra appendage to the form, but the form provides for verification. So you tell us who owns the property, the name of the registered owner, if it is a house, whose name the document or the property is registered in, Who is now the current owner? Maybe you got it by inheritance, but the owner is Sylvanus Blake Sr. He built the house, I got it by inheritance. The year you got it, and the means through which you got it, and the face value today of that property. So you are listing everything in the form. When it comes to movable assets, immovable assets, you are listing everything. The owner, the source, its location, its face value, how you got it. If you said, I built a house, you are going to tell us the source. Your salary, your business, you could state how you built the house. You won a lottery, you tell us. That information is what we will now use.
And now a census is far more than a head count. It is the blueprint from which nations build schools, hospitals, roads, and public services. The African Development Bank describes reliable statistics as a cornerstone of sound economic governance, while the United States Census Bureau calls a pilot or mock census as the most critical stage for identifying operational weaknesses before a national head count begins. Now, in Sierra Leone, where government is preparing for the 2026 population and housing census, that process has now entered a decisive phase. Statistics Sierra Leone has now launched its mock census designed to test technology, field operations, and the readiness of thousands of personnel before every household is counted. Let's join Yero Jalo.
Without credible data, governments are left navigating the future with an incomplete map. That is why officials gathered to launch Sierra Leone's mock census. The United Nations Census Bureau and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa regard census pilots as essential for evaluating technology, interviewer performance, and public response before billions of data points are collected. The exercise is a full-scale rehearsal of the country's 2026 population and housing census, testing digital questionnaires, field procedures, logistics, and quality control systems before the nationwide enumeration begins.
And today we are actually kicking off the training for supervisors and enumerators for a mock census. We did the pilot census last December. And in the pilot census, we had international observers who came as independent monitors. We also had local monitors from different political parties. We did a review of the pilot census, and one of the conclusions that came out was to really see how we can conduct another mock census, particularly to test the systems before the actual census. So we are actually rolling out the training today for enumerators and supervisors for the mock census. Training is going to last for 10 days. Immediately after the training, we will group the enumerators and supervisors into teams and distribute them across the districts that we are actually going to do the mock census. So immediately after the training, they are actually going to start field work of 15 days. It's digital. They will be using their tablets through the training and also the tablet for data collection. Up to about 174 participants, but we rounded it up to 200 to create buffer should, in case, during the training somebody falls ill or somebody is unable to actually match up with the test, because there is going to be a test after the test. Then we can use the buffer to fill in the 174. So at the moment we are actually training 200 across across three regions: Western region here, Western rural urban, and Makeni for Northwest, and also Bo for Keneman and South.
Population dynamics continues to reshape Sierra Leone. According to the United Nations World Population Prospects 2024, the country's population is projected to approach 9 million people in 2026, reflecting sustained demographic growth that will influence future demand for classrooms, health facilities, housing, electricity, and employment. Officials say only an accurate census can reveal not simply how many people live in Sierra Leone, but where they live and what services they required most urgently.
A lot of lessons have been learned regarding technical lessons, administrative lessons, logistical issues. So a lot have been learned. Message is statistics Sierra Leone. The census we are conducting is all about development. We're collecting data that is not just going to be used by Sierra Leoneans, it's going to be used by the world all over. And it helps government to plan in terms of development, and donor partners that come into the country, they will be planning for the good of the country based on tangible data, credible data. So we want each and every one to show up, to give support. It's all inclusive, so that let everyone be counted during the census in December 2026.
Take back. The census is often described as the largest operation undertaken by any government. It requires precision, public confidence, and national participation in equal measure. Statistics Sierra Leone says the mock census will expose operational gaps before the national enumeration begins, helping to ensure that when the country undertakes its official counts, every community is visible and every person has the opportunity to be counted. Yero Jallo, AYV News Freetown.
Sierra Leone pushes forward on its digital agenda. One project is making sure no one gets left behind. Digital Futures Sierra Leone, implemented by Bright Light Project, just trained 20 youths in McKinney with skills they already are using in class, in the field and beyond, from university students to social workers to district education leaders. They all say the same thing, that this is the future of learning and work. Abasisi tells us more.
Through Digital Futures Sierra Leone, Bright Light Project is putting practical digital skills in the hands of students, teachers, and youth in underserved communities. 20 young people in McKinney just wrapped an intensive training. The coordinator of Bright Light Project, Samuel Alpha Thoronka, gives an insight on this initiative.
Based on our monitoring, of course, we find it very challenging for students and also our beneficiaries when it comes to computer literacy. We introduced the idea for us to train students, including teachers, on this computer skill, for them to read and also understand what ICT is. Today we are here, we've just concluded the training for youth as well, who are students from the University of McKinney and also the Anespa Kuruma University. Of course, we just certified 20 of them. This includes 12 male and also 8 female for this particular session that we've completed today.
Participants are already seeing the difference. EBK University student Umar Kabamansare called it an eye-opener for his studies.
I did not know how to do my assignments except I go to the cafes or people who have the opportunity to make my assignment. But with the help of the Bright Light Project and the Youth Action Social Development, today I can proudly say I know how to do my assignments for myself using the technology, the computer, and I can proudly write a proposal, a thesis for somebody or for myself.
Social worker Sega Jallo says the training will boost the efficiency in the field.
This computer training can also boost in terms of my field work as a social worker, because as a social worker, you are not going to be in the field. Like for example, I'm coming from Penadugu district. You are not going to be at the far end like Mongo, and they asked you to send your reports concerning what you have done in that particular field without knowing, because if you know computer, if you have small experience in computer, you will just do your write-up and send the report.
Assistant Director of Education for Bombali District, Alex Abukuruma, highlights why digital skills are now non-negotiable in education.
When you are now in the lecture room, the lecturers give you even assignments, do an email and say, send it in my email box. So if you are not computer literate, how will you do that assignment? Your reports, the research, you go into email. And I believe this particular training will support them do their assignment, will support them make their reports, support them in their research, and making a very good comprehensive education.
As Sierra Leone goes digital, Digital Future is ensuring young people have the tools to lead, not lag. Abbas Sise, AYV News, Bombali District.
Well, now for the latest in sports, let's join Sir Solomon Yomba. Good evening. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me. Now for sport this evening on Primetime News, the Sierra Leone Powerlifting Federation has elected Abdul Rahim Sise as its new president following the successful conclusion of its elective congress. Visible progress has too often proved elusive without proper systems in place. Promising athletes struggled to reach their full potential, and the federation as a whole found it difficult to gain recognition. The newly elected president has pledged to prioritize the growth and development of powerlifting across Sierra Leone levels. Marie Esther Samora has a full story.
Limbo efforts to nurture new talent were repeatedly hindered by a lack of certified referees and coaches. Amid these outstanding obstacles, a turning point now seems possible. In an interview with the newly elected president of the federation, Abdulrahman Sise, well known for his work in powerlifting at the magazine community and for organizing gym competitions that scouted new talent during his tenure as chairman of the home-based gym in the east of Freetown, shared his ambitious vision for the federation's future. Fresh from his decisive election win, where he secured 55 votes as against Brahim Abbas 14, President Sise outlined bold plans to strengthen the federation.
In terms of my plans in the next 4 years, I want to develop a structure powerlifting nationwide, and I wanted to train and certify the coaches, the refs, and the technical officials, because I can tell you for free, and we don't have qualified coach and refs in Sierra Leone presently. So if you want to get the foundation, we want to hit the ground running, we need to make sure that we train these coaches and referees so that they can be qualified to train the powerlifters in their various gym, in which they will be qualified to take part in the national championship, in which we are going to have every year.
President Sise did not downplay the major hurdles that remain, especially the chronicle issue of funding that has limited the ambition of sports federations across Sierra Leone. To tackle these financial challenges, he is committed to actively seeking partnerships and securing the resources to drive his reform agenda forward.
Funding has been a challenge for all sporting discipline. Yeah, but for me, the first thing I'm going to make sure that all the gyms that are under the powerlifting federation, they are going to pay their dues so that they can hold us accountable. And that is one. I'm going to make sure that we engage the private sector. It is very, very key. The telecommunications and the banks, so that we can have some MOUs and see how best they can support. And we are going to knock on the doors of the government as well, the Ministry of Sport, the NSC, the NOC, to see how best they too can help. If they've seen the steps that we are going to take, the structure, I'm pretty sure they will chip in to support.
For now, attention turns to how the new leadership will deliver on its commitment. Mariesta Samora, AYV Sport, Freetown.
And now Spain roared into round of 16 tonight, dispatching a determined Austria by 3-0 in a clash marked by relentless pressure and clinical finishing. La Roja proved once again while they remain among the tournament's most feared contenders as the road to glory continues. And finally, yesterday Belgium stunned Senegal 3-2 in Seytoul, staged one of the World Cup's great comebacks, trailing 2-0 to goals from Habib Diarra and Ismail Sarr. The Real Devils looked finished until substitute Romelu Lukaku struck late. Yuri Telenas equalized minutes later, then buried a controversial extra-time penalty to break Senegalese hearts and reach the round of 16. Belgium will face USA next. That's all for sports tonight on Primetime News. Over to you, Zulatu Ahmed.
Many thanks, Sir Solomon Yamba, for the latest in sports. I'm sure A lot of us are up at night watching the
World Cup.
The World Cup.
Sure.
Are you part of it as well?
Sure. Even on exams,
Definitely.
I get up to watch the game.
Even on exams. Thank you very much for the latest in sports. And that's all for Primetime News for tonight. For more stories, visit our website at www.ayvnews.com. If you have any comments on the news, please send us an email to info@ayvnews.com. I am Zulayatu Hamid. Many thanks for watching and listening. Bye-bye.